go. All right, welcome to today's Coaches KickStart Club Call. So a couple fun things is that I'm talking funny. I actually got Invisalign on my teeth, and it's my first real time talking with it, but I got to get used to it, and so I feel kind of goofy, but it is what it is, and so trivia about me. The other thing is that this is the Coaches KickStart Club Call, and what we do during this call, usually the third Wednesday of every month. Today, obviously, it's a Tuesday due to our schedule. But basically what I do, sometimes solo and sometimes with Karen Sullivan, is that we talk about different coaching and how to be better coaches and better business owners and do different things as coaches. It's a group that I've had for over 5 years now, and I absolutely love it, and I'm really glad that you guys are all a part of it and tracking when to actually show up. So a couple of different ways to be able to interact with me. One is to type into the chat, right? So you can just say, hey, how's it going? If it only comes to panelists, it will come to me. If you type it to all panelists and attendees, everyone will see it. So here I am saying hi, everyone. So feel free to chat that way. You can also raise your hand to volunteer, to ask questions or whatever, and then we can chat that way as well. Okay, I'm really hot. I gotta see, did I bring, I did, let me grab my water, sorry. The other thing is that we're in Jersey and we're having our floors done here, so there's a lot of banging and craziness going on. And, okay. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to do a couple things on today's Coaches KickStart Club Call. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the holidays, right? So in the U.S., we're celebrating Thanksgiving this week, and then we go into a holiday season that I guess technically started with Halloween and will last through the beginning of the year. And as coaches, even though we're very highly evolved and we are always looking at our stuff, sometimes we can get triggered. So I want to talk about holiday triggers and how to handle them. And then I want to coach somebody around a situation that might be triggering for the holidays. So if you want to be a client, something that has you concerned or worried, not sure how to handle, even something excited that you want to turn into an opportunity around the holidays, I would absolutely love if you would volunteer to be a client. So that is something to think about. All right, so I am assuming you guys can hear me. Nobody has typed into the Zoom chat yet, so I'm just going to go on faith that this is all working. And here's what I want to do. So you can type in answers, you can raise your hand, you can do it any way that you want to. What do you think for you is a real trigger around the holidays? And I'm also going to put a caveat onto it. What do you think, since you've become a coach, feels very triggering around the holidays? Okay, so type in some answers there, see what it is that you come up with. Because I often think about being a coach and then being around family members or not being around family members or whatever, how sometimes I assume roles or I try to fix things, or I really want everybody to be as zen as I might be approaching things. So as you think about it, what is it that triggers you around the holiday? And especially since becoming a coach. So good. So Sharon types in, hey, Sharon, your website looks beautiful, by the way. I would like to say that. Challenges and regressing. Lorna shares in money scarcity is something that can get triggered as well. Okay. Charity says, people asking, how's the business going? Oh my God, that's a great one. Yeah, okay, so we're going to talk about that in a moment. Let's see what other people have to say. Hopefully people will write in a few more. You know, it's interesting. So obviously there's more money spent this time of year for various reasons, right? So it could be parties and families and gifts and donations and different kinds of things that come up. I love the regressing because sometimes we revert back. We're like, oh, I'm so zen and this is so great. At the moment, I always say, you know, we can You grow up, and let's say you are in a family and you're labeled something. You're the black sheep of the family, or you're the flaky person of the family, or you're a super smart person of the family. Let's say you're a flake during growing up. And then you get into your 20s and you get it figured out. And you get into your 30s and you are rocking and rolling and you're not flaky and you've really transcended that label and you feel really on top of things and committed and follow through and great. And then you go back for Thanksgiving dinner, you sit down at the table and you become the biggest flake you know. So we fall sometimes into the old stories or expectations of how people think it is that we should be. I'm going to come back to charities in a moment. Rena says, when people are more focused on the superficial, it's food and gifts rather than the spiritual components of the why. So love that. So that can definitely be a trigger for some people. And Dawn shares, working through feelings about assumptions and others' issues. Good. So I'm going to go back to charities because I think a lot of us can relate to this one, right? So what do you do when people ask, how's the business going? Right? So there you are, just ready to hang out, bond with people, and everybody seems to be focused on your business or asking that question of, you know, so how many clients do you have, or what's working well, or how's that coaching thing going, right? So part of this is being able to understand, is this the time that you actually even want to talk about it? Is this something that that is important for you at that moment? So one is, you know, have a standard answer, right, of what it is that you want to say. Or flip it around and ask them some questions about how maybe they could help you if that's something that you wanted. Do you know anybody who might be looking for coaching? Or what's worked really well for you? Or you work in an organization, what do you think your biggest leadership challenges are? Things that can get that conversation going that can help explain. Let's say you don't want to talk about it. And you could just say something like, you know what, totally on holiday spirit right now. Let's catch up about that next week. So there's different things to realize, though. It's about where do you want to spend your energy? And sometimes if we feel like our business isn't where it should be, or people think it should be, or we're not happy with it, then it can trigger us more than other times as well. Okay, a couple other things came in. Kathy shared a hard time respecting others once and take it personally, creating an opportunity for drama. Yes. And Claire shares, coming from a place of love, peace, and understanding, and not reacting to the behavior or triggers from toxic relatives. Great. So the biggest thing during the holiday season that I can share with you that I don't always do, so this is way easier said than done, is this is a season that you need to not MSU. Right? So Karen Sullivan and I talk about it all the time. MSU is make stuff up, right? So what happens is we often will put meaning onto other people's actions or what they're saying. So let's go back to charities of saying, how's the business going? Well, we could make stuff up about that. They don't believe in me. They think this is a joke. They have no idea how it's even going to happen. They're worried about me. They're rooting for me. So it's when we attach meaning to people's behaviors, actions, or questions that can cause us to get triggered, right? So even with Rena, right? I love her. She said, when people are more focused on the superficial to food and gifts rather than the spiritual component of the why. So one thing to think about is, what are we MSUing around that? So if people don't talk about it, doesn't mean they don't think about it. Is it more important for the superficial, or why is it, what's the meaning that we attach to it? So part of being at your, the highest version of yourself during this holiday season is to ask yourself, what am I making up? What's true and what's not? All right, good. So let's do this. Let's go ahead. I feel like I'm talking so funny. I am sweating. I'm going to turn on my fan. Hold on one second. Okay. Thanks, you guys. It's the sun comes in at the front of the house, and I'm closed in the room because you can maybe hear drilling. So I just am getting no airflow. Okay, so who has a situation you would like to get coached on? I would love to just do the coaching, have people watch, and then have a discussion about it. We may or may not get to resolution. We're probably only going to coach for about 20 minutes so that we have enough time on the back end to talk about why I did some of the things that I did, perhaps some different strategies. I may share my thinking behind things, as well as even tell you where I would maybe do it different if I had a redo. So I need someone to volunteer, to raise your hand. It would be great if it was a holiday type of topic, right? A family thing, or a decision you need to make, or something you want to go into with a better mind frame than before. Whatever it is that feels right for you, but if we can have it be a theme, that would be great. So who would like to volunteer? Go ahead and raise your hand, and let's get somebody on who would love a little volunteer. Now, I will flip over your camera, but you can turn it off if you don't want to be seen. That's not a problem at all. You just, have the camera not go, and it'll be okay. All right. I feel like we're at a standstill until somebody volunteers. Okay, wait, it looks like I have somebody, but I got to find them. Oh, good. Okay, so Rena, I'm going to pull you on over. What that means is your video will go on. If you don't want it on, the lower left-hand corner of your screen, it'll say hide video. So hold on one second. She's going to be coming on over, and I think she is. I didn't do something right. Hold on one sec, guys. Okay, I lost Rena somehow. Rena, if you can, raise your hand again so I can find you. And maybe she actually dropped off the call. Okay, do we have another volunteer? Oh, there she is. Good. Hey, here you are.
Hi. You can't see me. I'm backlit. Sorry.
No, that totally works. It's almost like, like when they do like the 2020s or the Dateline, and it's like you're a whistleblower.
Yeah, right. I know. Witness protection program.
I love it. Okay, my dear. So here's the skinny and the scoop. I'm going to do some coaching with you. Okay. And I will stop us at a certain time just so we have enough discussion. And I totally appreciate you volunteering.
Absolutely. Let's play.
Okay. All right, good. Let's play. Sorry, I'm leaning towards the thing. I need a bigger notebook.
Maybe I'll try to, you find your notebook. Maybe I'll get something to get me on backlit, but I can hear you, so start talking.
Okay. That's the key thing. That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me kind of get in my groove here as I'm hot, apparently, looking for notebooks, and I need to get settled.
Okay.
Okay.
Get nauseous. Okay.
All right, that's okay. Oh, perfect. There you are. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so what do you want to get coached on?
So let's coach on, what I posted, right? Let's just go with that.
Okay, so go ahead and tell me in your own words then of what seems to be a trigger around spirituality versus the superficial.
So it's not a big trigger. I don't have many big triggers anymore, but it's in the past, so it's kind of carried through, is when I remind people, right? So when we sit down to the meal, when I welcome them in, in the energy of thanks and giving for Thanksgiving, right? So appreciation and gratitude. And I like to acknowledge each person for the role that they played in my life up until now, how I feel about them. And many times, depending on who I'm talking to, it could be, oh, Mom, this again. It could be, a sigh and a little bit of an eye roll, and and people who don't want to share, I think it makes people feel uncomfortable sometimes when I do that. And their response is, oh, we're just here. This is a time for family and fun. And that's true, it is. But so for Thanksgiving, that's one. And for the holidays, I've witnessed many times in families, my own and others, how it's really about the gifts, the physical, oh, what did I get? And not many times do people consider, well, what can I give, right? And so there have been times where I've tried to get the family to come together, the extended family to come together and do a donation and do a supportive, a bigger idea of a gift beyond something that we can open up in, a million boxes with tons of paper kind of thing. And,
Okay.
And it goes, is it a trigger? It gives me a sense of melancholy.
Melancholy about what?
About just about the lack of, the idea that giving to each other in a physical, with a physical thing that may get tossed in a month or put on a shelf and forgotten about is more valuable than extending a hand to elsewhere to support others in a bigger way, in a different way.
Okay. So it may not be a huge trigger, as you said, but it does create the melancholy, which to me always sort of feels like a sense of longing. What do you long for during the holiday season?
Rabbit hole. It's not a big sense of longing. I long. Okay. So I won't extend this any further than my own immediate family. So our two sons, my husband, and myself. Mm-hmm. I long for a time when the four of us come together in that space and collaborate and bring to the table initiatives that each of us would like to support. And from that space, then we truly can give in a bigger way, right? We can collaborate. We would be in that same basic place.
Okay.
So I long for that.
Okay. And I also hear that while you long for that, there might be some eye rolls and some, oh, mom. And
I'll get back to you because, I honestly haven't brought that up in a bit of time. And so the sons now are 29 and 30 years old. And hubby and I have gone through many different, very powerful, very emotionally and spiritually significant events within the last couple of years. And so I'm thinking Thursday might be a really good time to approach this, to present this from a different space, right? So, because I don't feel the energy behind it for me is more anabolic than it is catabolic.
Yes.
The opportunity feels good. The knowing that I feel this way feels good, right? Just the energy of it feels good. So I'll get back to you. I'll post in the, on the page.
Okay. Yeah, I love it because I feel there is a sense of calmness around this. It's not a lot of negative energy. It's a 2%, 2 degree shift or something. So what would be helpful for us to discover together around this opportunity?
Well, gee, Ms. Barley, I'm positive that there's a thought or 2 or 50 going through that beautiful head. So I am open to hearing your thoughts, feelings about this. And I've already presented my option, right? I will present that on Thursday.
Great.
Or tomorrow. Our son is once again being plucked out of Florida to come home and spend time here, this time willingly, as opposed to, when Irma decided to visit. But so we'll see what happens. So tell me, come on, juicy bits.
No, I think it's great. I think that you sound connected to your thought and what you want and being able to broach it in a new way. And so is there anything I can do to support you with that, or are you feeling pretty good?
Well, you've already done something to support me in that, and that is you picked me and you are supporting me. This is supportive, right? So, and I feel that. So hugs to you. And I am pretty okay with just having the conversation, and whatever the outcome, I am not attached to that because I make my choices on my own. So I can do, what I will do is what I will do, and perhaps that will spark something in others to say, yeah, okay. And it doesn't have to be on Thursday, right?
Right.
It can be, the seed can be planted on Thursday, and we'll water and we'll fertilize and we'll see when it grows.
Okay, perfect. So is this a good place to stop?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Okay, good. So, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, let's see, any thoughts you want to share with the group here? Then for you, Rena, on how the coaching was, or what was helpful, or?
So what's helpful? So this was helpful. It was helpful for me to raise my hand and to express it, right? To actually put a voice to the feeling was helpful because you noticed I paused, right? And I paused because that's part of my practice, is to stop thinking and listen. So when the words came out of my mouth, there was intuition that was then speaking and, kind of taking me in the direction that I needed to go.
Great.
So there's power to this. There's value to this.
Great. Okay, good. I want to pop you back over on the other side, as we like to say. And let's then let's talk about that, right? Because that was short, that was sweet. There was some interesting things that happened. And I especially want to talk about ending the coaching session, about the partnering of the session coming to an end. Because I think that we don't hear that a lot. So I'm going to talk about that. So let's have a discussion. What's running through your head? What questions do you have? There's a couple of things that she asked for my opinion on. So how did I handle that? Do you feel we left anything on the table? Is there a different direction that you guys would have gone? So this is the time for the great interaction of our conversation. I'd love for you to raise your hand. Love to hear from a few people. And then also you can type it in during chat and we can go from there. And then we'll, if there's time, maybe we'll do another. We'll see. So, but I need you guys to share your thoughts on what's happening. So I'll give you a moment. As a side note, Janny really likes the quote behind me, and I don't know who wrote it. I do love it myself, and I think that, I'm not sure where we got it. Yeah, it's really a good background as I moved away from the sun. Okay, you guys, play along with me. Let's have some fun. Who has some ideas and thoughts they want to share, they want to ask? What did you think was interesting about that? And by interesting, what worked, what didn't work? Okay. Scott said, loved how you shifted the energy back when she asked you for questions. Such a tricky moment sometimes for coaches. Totally, Scott. So she's like, so what are your ideas? What do you think I should do? And that is about flipping it right back, because I really had no ideas of my own about this topic. I wanted to, that was my way of sort of doing a check-in to say, what else should we talk about? What else would be helpful? She took it as an opportunity to ask me questions, but then I just, said, sounds like you have a plan on where it is that you want to go. And then I segued into just keeping it focused on the next step. Oh, that's funny. Rena said that she did that on purpose. So good. I'm glad that you did, because sometimes that can really catch us off guard. So I really like, just when that happens, to say, let's just roll with your ideas right now. Or let's build on what you've already had. What else do you think? Sometimes I may say things like, something like, oh, I'll share all my ideas at the end, but let's first finish this out with you. So that's good. Claire says, I find it very interesting listening to Coach on Coach coaching. It's so powerful how you held the space for her to listen to her inner coach. Sweet and simple, but actually very insightful for her. I agree, Claire. My favorite moment is when Rena said, so do I get triggered about this? Like, she asked her own question, right? And I knew that it wasn't a big trigger because she said that before we even started. Then she used the word melancholy, right? I put my own definition on, and I was like, so sometimes with melancholy, that could mean a longing. What is it that you long for? And she's sort of like, I don't know. Is it a longing? Is it not? And she went with that. I definitely wanted to stay with melancholy. So she said, I don't know if it's a trigger. It might be more melancholy. I didn't want to jump back to trigger because she had more energy in the word melancholy. I could have said, what does melancholy mean to you? How do you know it's melancholy versus a trigger? I don't know if I would have done that. You could even ask, what feels melancholy about it? Where does the melancholy come from, right? So a lot of different questions that you could ask there. And so I just went with, here's one definition of it. Yeah, Rena said, I agree. I'm glad you didn't. Yeah, if I was to go to the trigger or what's the fear or like go down that, it just, the energy wasn't there. The other thing I know about Rena is, because I do know her, is that she is very spiritual. She is about thanks and she is about giving. And for her to, how do I say, she's also, I think, pretty generous with letting people be where they are. And so maybe she may have a wish for more spirituality connection versus gift giving. The energy in her is often very gracious for other people. I don't know how else to say that. So that's another reason I didn't go to the trigger side, because of background information I have about her. Okay. Kathy said, what would be the ideal situation? I heard not about the gift, but what specifically would she like to say? So that's a great question, right? To be able to say, so ideally, what is it that you would want? What do you want to see more of? The challenge sometimes with ideal situations with people, not in Rena's situation because hers was different, but sometimes when you're coaching people about family members or about attitudes or about triggers, is we'll say things, well, what's the ideal situation? And they will say stuff that is not ideal at all. And it's not realistic. Right? The ideal situation is that my sister would show up completely different than she does. So a lot of times, you could say conceptually, what's the ideal situation? But a lot of times what I will do with family things outside arenas is I will ask, so realistically, knowing everybody's personalities and behaviors, what's the outcome that you're hoping for? Because sometimes that needs to be grounded. Okay, good. Who else has thoughts or questions? Type them in, raise your hand. And let me see what other little notes I wrote down. Oh, I loved when she said rabbit hole. That was like the warning that she was maybe going to go down one. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, yay. I am bringing you over, Erica. Let's see, she's going to pop on over in just a moment. There she is, and she's on mute. Let me try to unmute you. There you are. Hi.
Hi, I think you muted me. Hi. I noticed you were listening, and I'm like listening with you and like forming all these ideas. And then she said something that was a feeling, and it was like you just jumped right then. And I thought that was interesting. It was like nothing. It was almost like nothing had come before, and I'm wondering what was happening in you that, you know, what triggered you to say that's the place to go. Everything else, forget it.
Okay, and it's because she named what it was, right? So and I think it was melancholy. That would be my guess, because I didn't acknowledge that must be difficult. I just went right there. And the reason is she labeled what her experience was. The evidence of feeling melancholy for something was through the people's behaviors, through what she believes in, through the responses she gets from other people. So when she said the feeling that it just felt like the right direction. Everything else kind of seemed surface. Not surface like surface, but irrelevant. So it was, how do you explore the melancholy? Because that could create a frustration or a disconnect or a noticing even of different people's alignment of what's important to them. So that's just why I did. But I didn't acknowledge, reflect, validate. I was just like, boom, right in there. And I even thought that, because as soon as I asked it, Erica, I was like, oh, I didn't even like acknowledge or validate. I wanted to stay in that feeling though. And if I put in a lot of words, it would create a bigger space for Rena between the word and what she just shared. And so that's, I think, what was happening.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fun to watch energetically. It was sort of like, you know, we're all like in the grass waiting, and then you're like, pounce! And there was like no hesitation, like no like courtship dance, nothing. Just like, there it is. Hit it when it's hot.
I love it. Cool. Okay, good. Anything else you want to throw in there since I have you on camera?
Nope.
No. Okay. Let me move you on back. Okay, so a couple other things came in. Rena said you tapped into the energetic value of the word with a response of another feeling, and it was linking. Yeah, I guess so. I wouldn't even have been probably that astute to be able to highlight that. But yes, so it was in the melancholy to longing, right, is linking it to another place. The other interesting thing was Rena did say, I'm not sure if it is longing, right? But she didn't get flustered by that. She just kind of went with her response, which was really great. Okay. Let's see. I'm just going to see if there's anything else that, so let's talk about the ending, right? So at the end, I sort of said, is there anything else to cover? And then she threw it back to me in a beautiful way to illustrate how to not answer the question of what would I do or what were my thoughts. At the very end, so she said, you know what, I feel pretty good. I'll let you know. I'll post in the group. And then I said something to the effect of, so is this a good place to stop? And I did that, closed-ended question, totally on purpose. And the reason is part of coaching is having a partnership with your client. And the partnering happens in a couple of different ways. So when you partner with your client, you partner around the agreement. What are we doing? What's the session? Where do we need to get to? We didn't do as much of that today for a bunch of different reasons. Because Rena kind of was talking her way through and she came up to her own kind of solution before technically, I guess, we got there. But the partnering's in the agreement. The partnering then is also in the coaching, and the way that we partner with our clients during the actual session is we do what I call lead by following. We're leading by following wherever the client is. And that's the partnership that comes into play. We take their direction, we go off of their energy, we ask things based on where they are. So we're leading with provocative questions through following where the client is. The third part of partnering is actually ending the conversation. And so by saying, is this a good place to stop? I'm getting her buy-in. If she was to say, actually, no, there's something else I need to figure out, or actually there's something else going on, or I'm not quite finished with that, I'm getting her buy-in to saying, we're done, right? Now, obviously, that was however many minutes it was. If I was doing a full half-hour session, then, and I said, is this a good place to stop? We would just stop and probably be at the end. Maybe I would say, so that brought closure to that topic. Is there anything else that you want to bring up in today's session? And we would do a new agreement and a new contracting and a new partnering and a new closing, or we would be finished. But I think that it's important to realize that even the ending is a true partnership. And so allowing enough time for that. Okay, good. What else you guys got for me? Raise your hand, type it in. We'll see what's going on. Okay. We might be able to do. Okay, so let's do this. We have a few more minutes. Does somebody else want to volunteer to be a client? Right? So obviously this situation is going to be super laser, or it's, may not get finished because we only have about 10, 15 more minutes. But let's give it a whirl. Let's give it a start. Who would like to raise their hand? And let's go. Hey, I'm bringing you over, Scott. Okay, let me unmute you. Hi.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you. I read you all the time, but it's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm glad to get from underneath everything and say hi. This is great.
Good. Okay, so same scenario, same drill. I'm just going to coach, and I'm going to stop when I need to so we can have a discussion. And people take notes, write down thoughts, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so, great. Scott, what's coming up for you?
So for me, I'm dealing with a situation with a family member, and this is a very topical thing that we're talking about today. She's a bit toxic, and we've got those family members. I know a lot of us in our family, almost like a narcissistic personality disorder, and just a bit mean. And so what I'm dealing with is that I'm a coach, and my family members are looking to me to set a bit of an example. I really don't want to engage. I really want to engage with it. So I feel a little conflicted in how I'm dealing with it, because I feel like I'm not setting a good example, or I feel like maybe I'm being selfish, like they're looking to me to resolve it for everybody else. I'm not quite sure, but I'm sort of struggling around their perception of me and maybe even how I should deal with that.
Okay. Yeah, totally makes sense. You're between rock and a hard place. It does. And what I'm going to do, Scott, is I'm going to just throw down a couple of I'm closing a couple apps because I had a little bit of video drag. And okay, so it totally makes sense. Oh my God, like here your family is, she is who she is, and everyone's like, what's Scott going to do? How's he going to handle it? Maybe he can fix it, right? And what I also hear is you have zero interest in getting in the middle.
Yes.
So, okay. So a question I have is, if you weren't in the middle, where do you want to be?
I want to be far, far away. I want to be, honestly, like it's just a matter of trust in me. I sort of understand what she's capable of, and I accept that, and what she's not capable of, and I accept that. So for me, for myself, I feel actually pretty secure around it. I feel like it would be not in my best interest to try to have a great relationship with it. It's just not there. That's just the facts. It's not going to happen. So, yeah. So does that answer your question? I feel like I sort of went off a little bit.
Sure. No, that totally makes sense. So let me ask you this. So in our short time together, what do you think would be most helpful for us to focus on?
I think I think how I could explain it to other people in my family in a way that I feel like I'm still in integrity with who I am, and also in what it is to be a coach, and, you know, all of that.
Okay. So if you're up for it, let's do something.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain it to me? Don't worry about how it sounds, but what would you say that would say, I'm in integrity, I'm a coach, I get the situation, and I'm just going to tell you, family members, I'm going to explain it to you. What would that sound like just off the cuff?
Off the cuff, it would be a little bit of how I guess I explained it to you a second ago, of, you know, when I think I would talk about how when you're coaching people, one of the prerequisites is that they have to be coachable.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of knowing what you can count on people for, knowing what you can't count on them for is a big part of that. And so as it relates to this situation, I think it's knowing that I don't feel that for me personally, I just don't feel safe. I don't think it's a great environment for me to be in. And there's the good news is that there's like an army of people behind me in the family who totally get it already. Yeah. And who had this experience as well. But there's the few who I feel like who are looking to me to sort of resolve this for them. So I feel like maybe it's that the conversation is that everyone needs to resolve it for themselves individually, and sort of not take on resolving it for them. You know, and being okay with that, being complete with that.
Okay. And if there was going to be any objections, let's say you just said it just like that, you shared it in a beautiful way, everybody's responsible for themselves, find resolution the way you need to, I'm paraphrasing. What do you think is going to be, if any, an objection that you'll get about that?
I feel like the objections that I would get would be, wow, that's surprising coming from a coach that you wouldn't be able to resolve this in a way that would be a little bit more active, is it confrontational maybe, you know what I mean, where you can actually, you know, you guys would actually hash it out. I know that's not possible. I know, I would do it if it was possible, trust me. I think that's probably the biggest one is that reaction, even if it's sort of like a silent reaction where you can just sort of feel it, but they don't necessarily, you can see it in their eyes, but they don't necessarily say it. And also I feel like there's also a reaction of, well, then, you know, you should say that to her. You should say that you're pulling away. And I don't want to, but the other thing is with this type of personality, to create conflict is to feed into that. So that's not something that I'm interested in either. So.
Okay. So it sounds like you're definitely clear on the fact that you don't want to get in the middle. You don't want to engage. You don't want to have to do this. The hard part is people may want you to, right?
Right.
I want to ask you a straightforward question. Are you willing to are you willing to stand your ground saying that people need to resolve it for themselves? Are you willing to do that?
100%. Yeah, easily.
Okay. So then how do you reconcile the fact that some people may not like that choice?
Right. Okay. So you actually hit on the thing that I think I'm struggling with, which is that some people may not agree with me. And that to me, I want them to obviously agree with me. These are my family members who I love, and that's a bit tough, you know? I think how I can reconcile it is that I'm actually supporting them and finding a resolution in a way that fits them, and, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that that's ultimately what they need. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So by me taking this on, it's also deferring the situation to me, and they're not really getting complete with it and understanding with it, you know, on their own level. So by me sort of putting it back to them an opportunity to create their own relationship with the situation, you know, and their own resolution with it.
Okay. So that's how you reconcile it, by understanding the larger impact that really has and the gift that's actually there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So let's say you've told people and they're like, yeah, and then someone gets really quiet and you start going, are they on page with me? Are they on board with me? Are they not?
Yeah.
Then what?
Well, I don't think that I can hang my hat on their reaction completely. I think that if I'm giving them that power, then put everything in on them. So I feel that really the work is for me to, when you went back, when you said it before, how comfortable are you in standing your ground? That's where the work is. Mm-hmm. And I really, but you know what though, I really do believe that's like, they need to get their own resolution. So I feel like, yeah, there might be that little bit of a voice being like, yeah, they're not drinking that Kool-Aid. They're not really buying that, but I think also, that's okay. I think that's all right. I think that I truly believe it. So it's not just like a way to deflect. Mm-hmm. And if they don't get that, then, that's maybe a lost opportunity for them, but I can't really take that on,
Right. Totally. Okay. So due to time right now, we're sort of at the time I should end this. So is there anything else that you need right in this moment from this conversation?
No, I think just talking it out like we have has been really nice. It's helped me get a little bit more of a sense of what would be helpful for me. So this has been great.
What do you think your biggest takeaway was?
I think my biggest takeaway was uncovering when I shift the energy back to them having the opportunity of creating their own resolution around this, that's actually a much healthier way for me to think about it. You know what I mean? So that to me, I'm going to carry that into the holidays for sure.
Excellent. All right, cool. Okay, good. So we'll wrap that up, and now I'll talk about you. So
thank you.
No, not about you, but you might get even some more things. So hang tight. Let me move you back over. Thank you so much. And okay, so let's see. Oh, that's so funny. Claire says, you're literally so focused and in the zone that even drilling and banging, you guys can hear that. I was hoping you couldn't. Doesn't distract you. And the oh wow, I don't feel safe resonates over here. Okay, good. So what do you guys think? What's coming up for you? That was a really interesting one as well, right? So a couple of different things. And I can share what I did from what I remember. Carol shares, I like how Scott is sticking to his internal values. And so, which is great. But what are you guys thinking? What worked, what didn't work? Are you curious about something it is that I did? I did at one point ask a very, very, very straightforward yes or no question. Are you willing or committed or something to standing your ground on this? Because that's what I had. Did he need help figuring out, did he want to or not? No. He didn't even technically need to practice it too much. I did, right? Because I just wanted to get it about what is he trying to communicate and off the cuff and what does that sound like? Because a lot of times with family, we have to practice sort of what it is we want to say. And then I did keep kind of throwing back at him, and what if they don't like that? Or what if they get really quiet? Or what are you going to do? Because there's a good chance that it's going to happen. So how does Scott understand his own values and alignment and integrity of what he's saying so that he has power through this whole process? Because although people want him to fix the situation, Scott knows, not my circus, not my monkeys, right? And so that's going to be the entire circus of letting go, how people resolve it. So what else is coming up for you guys? You can go ahead and raise your hand, type it in. I'd love to hear from a few more of you. Would be great. The big thing Scott also shared was about he wanted to stay in integrity. We could have explored that more. What do you know? What would pull you out of integrity, right? That could be a question. Even if nobody agreed with your approach, how does that connect with your integrity? I love it. The other thing is Scott was super duper clear on the fact that he's not going to change this person, right? And I love that too. So that way he could let go of it. What else you guys got? Come on, talk to me. Okay, good. Geraldine, hey, Geraldine says, I detect a hint of hardness around this. What's the energy you want to hold as you deliver this? Okay, that's a great neutral question, right? So I love it. So as opposed to, if you don't want to come across hard, how is it? So what's the energy that you want to hold as you deliver this message? Perfect. So some of it also could be prepping more of, do you want to have one main conversation? You want to talk to people individually? Do you only want to bring it up if they bring it up? Sort of how's that going to get rolled out? That could be there as well. For me, the thing I want to share with you is, Scott, I'm going to tell you the words. This is Scott's notes, right? So I'm not very structured. Karen has a whole grid system, but it says Scott, family, toxic, narcissist, mean, conflicted, selfish. Those were the words I pulled from the very beginning, because the thing is that the conflict is that he doesn't want a thing to do with it, and other people will maybe hope that he can help with it. And so to me, the coaching is, how do you diffuse that conflict? That led to the question I asked later is, how do you reconcile the choice? Because when he said, I am saying it, I'm standing my ground, I'm in integrity with the coach, I am not willing to go there, then how does he reconcile the conflict? And the conflict is what other people want. Judy says, I find it interesting that Scott was not attached to fixing his narcissistic family members, but still got snagged by doing the work for other relatives. I was curious what the difference between the two that makes one easier to detach from than the other. Great question, right? So a way I do that is to say, it sounds as if you're not going to take responsibility for her, but you are taking some responsibility for others. What's different between the two? It's a way to keep it really short and to find that information. A gift idea is coming to you, Scott, that you could give for the family. It's called Disarming the Narcissist. Empower them to read and handle it on their own terms. So by giving them a book. Scott said he loved that question about what makes it easier. And I will say that did come to my mind about how there's clear boundaries with one, but not the other. But I didn't focus on that. So great observation and noticing, Judy, on that. Carol said, good point. It depends on the level of being coachable. Yeah, so that could have had something to do with it. Okay. What else do you guys have in this? Even there, we with ending, is this an okay place to stop? I know I told him it was going to be short. We were going to do that. And that's just also to partner even in the demo, which I thought was pretty important. Let me see what else I have down here. I think that's it. That's all that I got. So, okay. So that was super fun. And I'm glad to be able to do that in 2 different examples of what that is. I will post this on the Facebook group so we can get the conversation going. So if things come up, you can put it in the thread, ask questions or whatever have you. We do have I believe we do. I'm going to look it up real quick. We do have our Coaches KickStart Club Call in December is scheduled for the 20th, which is our standard day, which is noon on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. So we're going to keep doing that. And I guess that's all I got. So I'm going to go check out our floors. They're going to be great. So we've had floor galore, right? We had some floors in Jersey and our floors in Florida. And I wish, anyway, side note, I wish everybody really, really, really happy Thanksgiving if you're in the United States, a happy week if you're not, and thank you all so much for being a part of this group. You know that I love this stuff and I love talking about coaching with you guys. So on that note, I will see you soon, and next time I will get Karen Sullivan in the room with me. She had to do something else. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.